Hello, folks. We're going to be talking about orientation, training, and development in this session, in this presentation. So, let's talk about onboarding first. Onboarding is a process where you are bringing somebody in, the new recruit, into an organization and helping them familiarize with the policies, procedures, systems, people, and how things work basically in an organization. What is onboarding? We've talked about it briefly in previous sessions in one of the first in the first few sessions, but as far as the definition goes, it's the process of integrating and acculturating new employees into the organization and providing them with tools, resources, and knowledge to become successful and productive. What is an orientation program? Uh, orientation programs are programs that familiarize new employee with their roles, the organization's policies, and other employees. So when you join an organization, for example, if you were to join Google as an example, they'll take you in. They'll have a program where you will meet people that you'd be interacting with. They'll introduce you to them. They'll give you a primer on how to use the systems that they have. Depending on the job that you do, what the policies and procedures are, how do different departments interact with each other, what are some of the service level agreements or SLAs between departments. So for example, if another department asks you to do something, how are you supposed to respond to that? In your job role, what are the expectations? Who do you report to? Who reports to you? How are you supposed to use the email or communication system that they have? Any shared data that they have? Any shared files that they have? How do you access them? Where is all the information and all of that stuff? That is covered in the orientation program for a new employee. Socialization, the process by which people adapt to an organization through learning and accepting the values, norms, and beliefs held by others in the organization. Remember, we had done the organizational socialization process in detail. So this is about that, right? Startup costs. This relates to the additional costs associated with a new employee because the new employee is less efficient than an experienced worker and it requires additional supervisor time. If you are new to an organization, especially if you are an external, if you were an external candidate, you were new to the organization, you haven't been promoted from within, then obviously it takes some time for you to understand the organizational culture, the values, the norms, the people, and all of that. So to train you in all of that, it requires an additional cost. This is what it's all about. In the PowerPoint slides, you will find the onboarding model. Please go through that. It is pretty simple. It talks about what different activities happen before the first day. So for example, extending personal welcome to the employee, communicating first day logistics to employees, sending paperwork in advance or online portal access, preparing for employee. First day orientation, focusing on sharing the mission and values, incorporating senior leadership, orienting employee to organization and office norms, introducing employee sponsor, and meeting immediate requirements for employment. For example, if you join an organization, you might need stationery, you might need a place to sit, you might need a laptop. To get you going as quickly as possible, the organization needs to make sure that you have all the tools, the equipment, and the necessary information to hit the road running, basically. So what happens in first week? Ensuring direct managerial involvement, setting performance expectations and job scope, assigning meaningful work, communicating resources or networks required for work. So it is a process of getting a person getting productive as quickly as possible. So you want them to know about their manager, what the expectations of the role are, what they're supposed to do, and usually the first week or so is spent learning about the organization. But as soon as possible, you should assign employees some work through which they can contribute. They can start contributing positively to the organization. First 90 days, providing essential training, monitoring performance, and providing feedback, obtaining feedback through new hire survey and other means. Not only are you telling the employee what are you, what the employee needs to know, but you are also getting feedback from the employee as to how you can improve or facilitate the new employee in this process. And for first year, recognizing positive employee contributions, providing formal and informal feedback on performance, creating employee development plan. So all those things are very important. The first year for any employee is very important. They are getting a hang of their job, and they're reaching a point where they are really productive now and can contribute and add value to, or continue to add value to, the organization. So during this time, for most organizations at least, the formal performance appraisal would happen as well, where you would measure and gauge, just like you students would be measured with your final exam. Similarly, employees are measured on how they performed throughout the year. I want to talk about training and development, some terms and definitions. Keep in mind that these videos are primers for a topic. I want you to understand a topic, read through it. You have these videos to facilitate you. So if you want to go back to any topic and reinforce that learning, you can do that. But we'll have from 17th of March all the classes online that we would have otherwise on campus. All right, so just keep that in mind. One of the terms is the learning organization. What does a learning organization mean? An organization that has an enhanced capacity to learn, adapt, and change. We have discussed this in class as well, right? So things are changing quickly for organizations. Organizations who fail to learn do not grow. Actually, they do not even stay at their place. They go back because everyone else is moving forward. So it is very important for organizations to continue to learn new things, experiment with new systems, whether it is markets or some of the programs they have directed at development of their human resources, or improving processes, or continuous learning, all those things. What is knowledge management? It is the ability to use people's knowledge, that is information shared in employees' heads, right? That is why organizations want to retain employees, especially skilled and experienced employees, because they have a lot of information and knowledge about the organization and how things work. When you hire a new person, when you replace these kind of folks, it requires a lot of effort, patience, time, and money to be able to train these new employees. Human resource development, how is it different from training? Human resource development is a function of human resource management that integrates the use of training and employee and career development efforts to improve individual, group, and organizational effectiveness. Remember organizational effectiveness, we talked about what is organizational effectiveness. It is the ability of organizations to achieve their goal, do the right things, and do them right? We talked about organizational effectiveness and organizational efficiency, and what is the difference between them. What is training? These are planned activities aimed to provide employees with enhanced skills to perform their current jobs. And it differs from what is development, in a sense that development is planned activities aimed to provide employees with enhanced skills and competencies for future. So we use training and development as one word, which is basically incorrect. Training is focused on now, the current job, whereas development of an employee is aimed at their future, the jobs they are going to take on in the near future, in the near or long term future, right? Then the next slide explains a little bit in detail about the training and development differences. For example, training is mostly short term with a concrete goal, and development is a long term activity with goals that are open ended and ongoing. Training focuses on the role, whereas development focuses on the person, right? Training aims at a specific job or role requirement, whereas development is more conceptual and focuses on overall progression of the individuals. When you're looking at the career development of an employee, you're looking for what they're doing now and what the skills they can develop for future. What is the potential that they have? You're really focusing on the potential and interests and motivation of the employee and making sure that they grow with the organization. A lot of CEOs and senior management, especially in older, larger organizations, come from within the ranks, which means that they join the organization at junior ranks, and within 15, 20 years, whatever, they grow in ranks and take on responsibilities, roles with more responsibility during their tenure, right? Next slide is the training systems approach. This is more about how we develop a training approach or how we design training. So first is to assess the training needs. What do people need to be trained on? Determining training needs. Identifying training objectives. What do you want to achieve with a certain kind of training? And remember, we had discussed all the different kinds of training that happen within the organization. There is online training, there is on-the-job training, there is classroom training, all kinds of different kinds of training, right? And they all have a different purpose. So the training and development department or the OD department at times, they have to really figure out what the training objectives are. When you have identified training objectives, for example, one of the objectives could be that you are implementing a new enterprise resource planning system, and most people who are going to use it are not trained on it. So you want to train people on it. So you hire an expert or a consultant to train your employees on that new ERP system. It could be SAP, it could be Oracle, it could be anything, right? Developing a criteria, pre-testing trainees as to where they are at this point in time, selecting training method, arranging for training. For example, if you are doing it in a classroom kind of training, then you want to make sure that you are booking a conference room, a meeting room with projector and other equipment that might be used for training. Conducting the training, delivering the training, developing the course outline, what you are going to train people on, and then delivering it so people have access to whether it is online or in person in class. And then comparing training outcomes against the criteria and evaluating and auditing basically how successful was the training. It is very difficult in most cases to assess how training worked because it usually is aimed at achieving long-term goals. Sometimes it is just necessary. For example, I gave an example of people being trained on a new system. It is something that has to be done. People don't know it, and after the training, one of the ways to measure the effectiveness of that training program is to see if people can use that ERP system or not. Simple as that. Let's come to the four principles of learning. One is the structure, organizing and clarifying information, paying attention to how information is organized to understand the big picture and grasping the main ideas, not getting bogged down with superfluous details, keeping it simple, asking yourself, what is the main idea being communicated here, right? The next is effort, engaging with the material, Testing your comprehension by writing down what you've learned in your own words without looking at the source material. This is something that you should do. Strengthening neural connections by using spaced repetition. Repetition, repetition, repetition. The more you practice, the better you get at it. Keeping ideas in your working memory longer to make them stick, right? So one of the ways I like to learn is when I learn a concept or an idea, I try to use it or think about how I would use it in practical life, right? Active learning, using what you learn. This is what just what I talked about, making abstract concepts more concrete by applying them to your life and teaching them to others. One of the ways to learn is to teach to others. So if you get an opportunity to teach to your to other friends of yours or people in group, that is a great way to learn. Relevance, having a good reason for learning. Now you only learn what you are interested in. If you're not at all interested in something, then you would be bored. You would not want to learn, right? So it is about finding that motivation, that relevance as to why you want to learn a certain idea or a certain concept. There is a slide on training techniques. Synchronous learning, which is real-time learning, instructor-led learning, workshops, seminars, on-the-job coaching, mentoring. Then technology-based learning, which is like virtual classrooms, webcasts, podcasts, email-based coaching. Asynchronous learning, self-paced. You would find websites now or platforms like edX or Coursera where there is self-paced training. You have user guides, audio tapes, video tapes, books, articles, and case studies that you can use. E-learning, CD-ROM, simulations, and all of that stuff. So there is a lot of ways that you can learn. Spectrum of training. That's another interesting slide as well, right? So the spectrum of training is from formal to informal. What is formal? It's structured, fixed schedule, happens during or after work, planned and established curriculum and duration, right? So your classrooms are structured, formal learning environment. Informal learning is unstructured, happens anytime. You can learn from someone else. Somebody says something and you pick that up. Somebody models a certain behavior and you pick that up. It could be happening at home or in your classroom or outside anywhere, right? So the spectrum of training ranges from formal to informal. So this is about training. We're going to talk about career development in the next slide. Keep an eye out on all the videos, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye.